Hello, well today we'll be looking at liquid pigment. This is an enamel product from AK Interactive. It is a very versatile solution and we can use it on all sorts of different types of products. So let's give the bottle a shake and let's see what we can do. While you can use the product directly from the bottle, I prefer to lay it out on a small palette and along with some odorless thinner. And the odorless thinner will just help in spreading the pigment over the surface. Well, our first example is going to be a minis base. It could be a larger base for that matter, but we'll use something small just for demonstration purposes. I've given this a layer of dark earth terrains effects from AK Interactive just to give it some texture. And now we can apply the pigment over the top and see what it looks like. The application of this is very, very simple. It could not be easier. Just simply brush it onto the surface. Now you can be very precise in your application or you can just use it as maybe perhaps a general wash. And then one nice feature is that the capillary action, especially on terrains, features such as this, allows the color to go into the recesses and crevices of the base to create a very nice dusty effect. Once I feel like I have enough of the solution over the surface, I'll set this aside for a few moments and allow it to dry. Well, here we are back, and now the solution has dried, and you can see the dust effects have really become very nice and apparent. And as mentioned earlier, the capillary action draws the color into all the recesses for a very natural, dusty type of an appearance. Perhaps the first application, well, the results were not quite strong enough for your needs. Well, that's very simple. We'll just come right back and add a second layer or a second application directly over the top. Now with our second application all dry, we can see that the effect is quite strong and we do still have that very nice dusty appearance. All that fluid has gone into the crevices and we now have quite a nice texture on this base. Very easy, very simple to do. Of course, at this point, you could simply choose to use the base as it is for your mini or your game piece. But if you so choose to move a little forward, add a little detailing, that's just as easy as well. Very compatible with paints. I'm using some AK acrylic paints just to bring out some of the details and paint some of these rocks. And then finally, just to add just that final touch, we can add a few dry tufts here just to bring the level up one more notch. And now your base is ready for display or gameplay. Staying with our science fiction and fantasy theme, I have this wall section and I'm going to take a few moments to quickly paint this out. Now the paints that I'm using for this are AK Generation 3 acrylic paints. Fast forward for a few moments here and now we have our rendered wall scene ready to add the pigment. The intention here is to add the pigment to what would be the natural locations. So that would mean around the rocks, around some of these columns, any place that dust and dirt would collect naturally. Of course, I have a prepared palette with the pigment in one bowl and I have odorless thinner in another. Once again, I can rely on capillary action to draw the pigment into all these recesses and cracks. And here we go with our final appearance after two applications of the pigment. As you can see, this collected nicely in all the recesses and crevices, and it even has almost a windswept appearance to it. I really think this is very effective and a very pleasing appearance overall. Moving away from sci-fi and fantasy applications, let's see how this would work on, say, traditional armor or even aircraft. Just give me a moment to finish up the camouflage here and then we'll get right to work with the liquid pigment. Once again, I'll set my palette, adding the liquid pigment to one bowl and the odorless thinner to another. For this demonstration, I'd like the application to be more precise, so I'm going to change to a smaller brush and I'm going to apply it more precisely just to highlight these surface details. As you might have noticed, it's somewhat difficult to see the coverage of the pigment as you apply it because it's very transparent at this stage before it dries. So I'm going to set this aside for a few moments. We'll allow it to dry, we'll see where we are, and then we'll come back to it. In the meantime, I do have another example here we can work on. Wheels and tires are perfect opportunities to use the liquid pigment, as with the deep recesses, the collection, the capillary action of the liquid pigment will draw itself into there and we'll get very nice, authentic, dusty and dirty appearances. Well, here we are after the pigment has had a chance to dry. The normal drying time is approximately about 15 minutes if just left on your workbench. I sped the process considerably by using a hair dryer. If you find that the application has maybe spread to areas where you did not desire it, well, cleanup is very easy. Using the odorless thinner and a clean brush, we could just wipe away and clean up some of this excess pigment. Our demonstration on the wheel and tire, that has come off very nicely with the pigment firmly in all those nice recesses, adding to a very good dusty appearance. For rain marks and streaking effects, if you pre-moisten the surface with odorless thinner, then draw your brush across using the liquid pigment, nice faded subtle effects can be achieved. In summary, the liquid pigment can be used for all types of different applications. Of course, our wall here we added to the base, adding these very nice, dusty and dirty and even a windswept appearance to this piece. Of course, then we had our small minis base as well, and this could be any size of a diorama base for that matter. And adding the liquid pigment over the top, basically as a wash, is a very effective way to add a dusty or dirty appearance to any sort of scenic platform. And then finally, we moved away from the sci-fi, fantasy, and dioramas and went straight into armor, adding dirt and dust effects around surface details, and the results, of course, speak for themselves. Very, very effective.